Amon Ra St Brown getting some national media recognition. It's about time. It's about time. Welcome back to an all-new episode here at Let's Talk Lions. My name is Jay. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. As a Lions fan, from me to you, thank you. So yesterday, Rich Eisen on his show put out a quick blurb. I think it's like 4.5 minutes. We're going to watch it together about really Amon Ra St Brown and how he is a top 10 wide receiver. And I figured let's just watch this together, kind of break it down. It's exciting. It's exciting to finally see some national media pundits, some national media guys recognizing. And so let's just go ahead. Let's roll the clip and we'll talk about it.
Why are the 5-7 Detroit Lions a field goal favorite over the Vikings?
I'll tell you why. How much Lions football have you watched over the last several weeks?
Just red zone.
Okay. They're really on a roll, right?
Just going to stop it for 1 second. What Brockman just said is the perfect example as why national media, why so many people have no idea what's going on in Detroit, have no idea how this team is accelerating. It's because people are watching red zone. If you're not watching a full Lions game, first of all, if you're not a Lions fan or the opponent playing us, I don't blame you. I don't. However, it does speak to why people are like, how could this team be favored? Who is this Amon Ra St Brown guy, other than like fantasy players, obviously people playing fantasy, but it speaks volumes. If you're not watching a full game and seeing Amon Ra St Brown and how great he is, of course you're not going to understand. Of course you're not going to know. So let's keep rolling.
Now.
Yeah, the Vikings are 10-2. And it could be the one
totally get it, but the Lions offense has arrived. Goff looks really good. Amon Ra St Brown,
the sun god.
Is he
the sun god? There it is.
Honestly, let's talk about top 10 receivers in the NFL.
Ooh. Okay.
He's on the list. He's on that list. You say I've got 10 receivers in the NFL. Top 10 receivers in the NFL.
What I love here is you could tell Rich Eisen believes in this fully. And he is backing up because obviously he is watching Lions football. He's at least going back and watching St. Brown. The other two guys are like, it's as if they don't want to give it to St. Brown. Now, granted, there are 15 spectacular wide receivers in this league. 10 spectacular, 15 awesome. Like, to be considered a top 10 wide receiver is honestly insane, and it is so incredible that the Lions have a 4th-round draft pick who's a top 10 receiver at this point. In Rich Eisen's eyes, in my own eyes, in many fans' eyes at this point, analysts' eyes. However, you could hear the other two guys don't want to give it to him, and I don't blame you if you're not watching Lions football, but what they don't know is his consistency. They have no idea how incredibly consistent St. Brown is, that he gets open. He gets open. He catches the ball no matter what. He is a 3rd down conversion machine, and he wants it. If you're not watching Lions football, how you going to know?
I'd say 15 for sure.
Let's try it. Let's try it.
Does Kelsey count?
So are we saying like,
no.
Are we saying
wide
who we
receivers.
take one, Rich? Is that what you're saying?
Does Kelsey count?
Tyreek Hill.
Devontae.
Correct.
Justin Jefferson.
Correct.
Steph.
Correct. Him. Excuse me. Proper terminology.
Jalen Waddle.
A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown.
Waddle. C.D. Lamb.
Hold on a minute.
Jamar Chase. T. Higgins.
No.
No, not T. Higgins.
No?
I will not give you T. Higgins.
No, better numbers than Amon Ra St. Brown.
Amon Ra St. Brown was hurt, and the Lions took a while.
He missed one game.
Once again, it's these other guys trying to really shove off St. Brown and his consistency and what he's able to do. Thank God. Thank you, Rich, for seeing who St. Brown is and what he is doing in Detroit. And how, we'll continue. We'll keep rolling.
Take him.
Okay.
I think top 15 is
DK Metcalf.
Amon Ra St.
Tyler
Brown
Lockett
is an incredible route runner.
He's great.
He makes himself available
Mike Evans.
every single time. I know.
Debo Samuel.
It's 14.
Chris,
I'm just listing names.
and I know, and I would put him on par with all of those names.
But he plays.
You asked a question, I'm giving you an answer. You may not like the.
Did you hear what that guy just said? Let's go back. See if you can hear it. He says, but he plays for Detroit. Let's run it back one last time.
But he plays.
You
for
asked a
Detroit.
question. I'm giving you an answer.
But he plays for Detroit. If that's not the national media narrative right there, then I don't know what is. This refusal to allow him to be a top 10, but he plays for Detroit. Or maybe it's not refusal of like, oh, well, we can't say it because he's playing for Detroit. It's more like, well, he's not getting... They could be saying, oh, he's not getting the airtime that other people are. They're not getting the praise because it's Detroit, which is a classic thing. But I'm just saying, that's what tells you there's not a lot of respect on St. Brown's name at this point.
I may not like the answer.
I did ask a question.
And defensively, they're playing better, and they believe in themselves.
You think they're going to beat the Vikings? Are you picking them?
I might. And I agree with you. But what they are underdogs in Detroit this week, which I think is a viable line. If I may tread in those waters for a moment, dip in that toe and jump out because I need a bigger boat.
Oh.
All right, let's stop it there. What you have here is, I think, the perfect example of what Detroit has dealt with for a long time. It's unless you're Calvin Johnson, unless you're this elite player that nobody can deny. I look at Matt Stafford as a great example. The moment he came and moved away from Detroit, the moment he went out to LA, all of a sudden, everybody was like, oh, this guy is a god, this guy MVP caliber, this guy Hall of Fame caliber. But because he didn't have playoff wins, because he didn't have these little accolades, these accolades along the way, it was, we don't know. You're not good enough. Then he goes to LA and he wins a Super Bowl in his first year, and then people put some respect on that name. And so it is this classic thing where it's like, okay, you're playing for Detroit, you don't get a lot of love, don't get a lot of respect. But what I appreciate here is Rich Eisen taking the time to consider Amon Ra St. Brown in the top 10 wide receiver list, because he is. Just to be clear, though, I love the Rich Eisen show. I watch the Rich Eisen show every day. I'm always, everything that they put out. I love Brockman. I love TJ. Like, that crew, they're studs. They're incredible. And what I do appreciate about both TJ and Brockman in this situation is, and what I always appreciate about these guys, they're willing to push back. It's not a show where it's like, oh, we just agree with you. Yay. Like, they actually do a very good job. Both of those guys do a great job of pushing back against Rich and his thoughts. And I appreciate TJ calling it out and saying, he's at least a top 15 wide receiver. That's big. That's huge. To have a top 15 wide receiver here in Detroit, that's huge in and of itself. And the fact that Rich would even classify him in the top 10 is awesome. I appreciate them putting this video out there. I appreciate Brockman being willing also to list out 15 dudes, 15 other guys that are like, like, is he as good as them? Let's go down the list. And he goes down the list. You gotta do that. Because I think it's easy to look at St. Brown with blinders sometimes here in Detroit. Because if you're a Lions fan, if you're watching these games the way that I am, the way that I'm sure you are, all you do is you see Amon Ra St. Brown get open consistently. His route running is incredible. And that was funny because when he came in, you could tell it took some time for him to get his route running down. However, now you're watching, you're just... St. Brown is an absolute animal. Route running is incredible. His hands are incredible. There is not one moment where it looks like Jared Goff doubts throwing to him. He is a third down machine, and we see him often Goff going for St. Brown in the end zone. St. Brown is a stud. I think he's a top 10 wide receiver, and that's me taking off the bias glasses. I do want to just make it clear, I love this show. I love these guys. They're always putting out phenomenal content. If you're not subscribed to them, I don't even understand what you're doing. Why don't you just go do it, Had a nice bagel this morning. Nice Jersey bagel. Man, you don't get that often here in Michigan. So shout out to my mom.